eligible money-saving representatives are available 24 hours a day. So if your car is 20 years old or newer, just tell us the make and model of your car or truck to get an instant claim quote. In a matter of minutes, you could be covered.
I was elated that I had car.
There we go.
More than happy.
There's no cost for you to have a car that's broken and you can't pay for it to get it fixed. Here's how Car Shield works. When your car needs repair, you take it to your favorite mechanic or even your dealer. And Car Shield gets them paid directly. That's why Car Shield is America's #1 auto protection provider. Car Shield is just the best thing to take away the fear that something is going to go wrong with your car, because it will. And Car Shield is going to be there to back you up. My experience with Car Shield is that they absolutely come through with every time I
If my car breaks down, I can count on Car Shield to cover it for me. Car Shield definitely has my back.
Now it's the time to make a smart choice.
There we go.
Protect yourself with Sky High Auto Repair Bill. Call now for a free and instant protection plan quote. It's only a matter of time before repairs are needed. And once your car breaks down, it's too late. Call 1-800-915-9597 or go to carshield.com. Get covered today. New Year's Day, 1963, Abraham Lincoln signed the Emancipation Proclamation. The president said, and I quote, "If my name ever goes down into history, it will be for this act, and my whole soul is in it."
Come work for an innovative company that pushes the boundaries of connectivity, entertainment, and communication. Spectrum, the nation's fastest-growing TV, internet, voice, and mobile provider, is looking for individuals who are interested in making the most out of their career. Employees enjoy full benefits, best-in-class 401k, and complimentary services. Spectrum has a wide range of positions available, so find the right opportunity for you. Just go to jobs.spectrum.com and apply today.
During this pandemic, we have seen the coronavirus wreak havoc across the globe. No place has been spared. Now, as we battle back with a safe and effective vaccine, it is critical we band together as one community. We can end this pandemic and return our community to normal if enough people get vaccinated. It will take all of us. Get immunized and stay safe. Shipments are now arriving to the capital region. Check Albany County's Department of Health webpage and our social media for updates.
We're talking the coronavirus has now claimed more than 432,000 lives here in the United States, with 25.7 million confirmed cases. And we've just learned that a very disturbing new COVID variant from South Africa has been in the U.S. See, that's Nick Watt joining us right now. Nick, update our viewers. What can you tell us?
Global, 2 cases, both adults, both doing okay, but that is the only good news here. The 2 cases in different parts of the state, neither have any travel history, just confirmed now that the actual infections took place 2 weeks ago. And all of this suggests that this more contagious variant, first found in South Africa, is now spreading here in the United States. Now, the FDA has said that the various variants might be having an impact on the efficacy of the tests right now. And also, the big deal, of course, is the vaccines. Now, the vaccines we have right now do work against this South African variant, but lab tests suggest that they don't work quite as well. So, officials and manufacturers are keeping.
So her husband's got to read a statement. That's nice.
President Biden's Surgeon General just told the Washington Post, we are now in a race against the variant.
Very important information. Nick Watt reporting for us. Thank you very much. We're joined now by a senior advisor on the White House COVID response team, Andy Slavitt. Andy, thank you so much for joining us. Does the presence of these more transmissible coronavirus variants here in the United States make it even more critical that these vaccines are produced, distributed, and actually administered and done so quickly?
Well, thanks, Paul. Yeah, the reporting is exactly right. These variants are, from what we know about them, more transmissible and maybe slightly more lethal. What does that mean to the average American? First of all, all the things we need to do, wearing a well-fitting mask, are even more important. Because even though cases are dropping now, we see what happens when they start to rise again. These types of cases rise very quickly. And then we rise exponentially. And so even while we're getting vaccines out, we need to get vaccines out as quickly as humanly possible. Vaccines go out regularly. They don't
All
go
right.
out carefully. So the public's going to have to continue to be guided by good sense while this goes out. There's nothing about this news says we can't defeat this thing. It just means we need more tools and we need to be more united.
Why does it keep doing that?
Also know, Andy, that the more rapidly
There's gotta be something wrong here.
more opportunities that have, if you take the potentially become even more dangerous. We've heard that from Dr. Fauci, among others. Is that fact fueling the urgency we're seeing right now?
No question about it. Look, I don't think that we would have needed additional heat from this urgency. It is absolutely there. I think what also going to need to happen is science is going to need to
What's going on here? Stop the share.
meaning we're going to have to stay one step ahead of these new
The
patients.
slideshow.
These processes to keep developing tests, therapies, and vaccines to make sure that as with the virus we face further,
I got too many windows open.
stay ahead of it. In the near term, what this
There we
means
go.
is we are fully stocked up as a country on vaccines. We need to purchase an additional 200 million vaccines. We need to be able to administer those vaccines quickly, which means that the American Rescue Plan needs to be passed so that we can get the resources to the states so they can more quickly administer the vaccines we're sending out right now. They're not able to process them as quickly as we're manufacturing them. And so all of those things are going to need to happen. It's got to be a bit of an orchestra if you want to see something like this.
When you briefed the nation yesterday, I mean, you said there are two constraining factors on vaccine distribution, vaccine supply, and the ability to actually administer the shots, get the shots in people's arms. The Biden administration is now expanding who can actually give a COVID-19 vaccine. How much of a difference will that make? Explain what's going on.
Sure. So we've had about 47 million vaccines as of yesterday that were ordered by states and delivered. We ship out everything we get ordered. We ship out a 2-day inventory, and we've been committed to states that we're going to be committing at least 10 million per week for the next 3 weeks, and I think we'll be able to see that. Plus, we're sending vaccines into these communities. Vaccination centers that we're setting up, we're setting up 100 of them this month, and so all of that is to say that we have to do everything possible to close the gap. One of the gaps
Oh well, there's already a.
What?
Sorry about that. I just need to
and then another attack like the one on January 6th. But ramping up the capital.
Hey, Vince.
Hey, Zach, good to see you. Thank you very much for setting this up for us. Another flawless meeting.
Great. Did you get my email?
Is that about the Seal Evers?
It's Celia, right? Or Celia?
No, it's Celia. Celia Evers.
Celia Evers.
Oh, Celia Evers. Okay.
Or is it Celia?
Pardon me?
Is it Celia Evers?
It's Celia. Celia Evers, right?
Celia.
Okay, Celia Evers.
Okay. Her husband Robert will be reading a statement on her behalf. So we'll have Robert read first, and then we'll have Deborah Zamer go second.
Okay. So Zach, you handle that end. I'll do a slight introduction. I want to introduce you and thank you. And we'll take it from now. I got a few more other things I have to say about Melrose. And Ginny, so Pat Doyle will interview or introduce. She'll be the MC for the 13th Ward, you for the 14th Ward, and you can introduce the two candidates. I don't know if I told you, I did reach out to Joe Igo, but he refused to say anything. He said he didn't want to say anything. So that's your prerogative. So.
Vincent, that's Tom. I got you on my phone. I'm driving to drive Max to practice. So yeah, put me later if you can.
You're going to be at the end.
Thank you.
All right, Vince.
Yes.
I'll be right back. I'll be right back. Okay.
Yes.
Hi, Vince.
Hey, Raymond, how you doing?
Pretty good. Looks like it's just you and I for the moment. I'm glad you're having these meetings.
Well, we're going to have a lot more. I think next one, we're going to. I want to bring in the mayor, but keep in mind when I bring the mayor in, I got to bring all the candidates running for mayor. But my original intention, before all these people jumped in, was have the mayor, Darius, and the auditor, Darcy.
Yeah, well, I'm not too sure how serious these candidates for mayor are.
Well, they still supposedly going to throw their hat in.
Yeah.
Scott Ventriguso, good to see you.
Oh, yeah, there's Scott, boy.
Hey, how's it going, everybody? I'm wearing my baseball cap to say I am here as a citizen, not as the library director.
Well, I was just going to say COVID has changed you dramatically.
No, this is me off the clock.
You look human.
Yeah, I will say we've gotten rid of our dress code, and it's nice to kind of not have to worry about.
Well, see, I don't have a camera, so I don't even have to get dressed.
Doyle Ventriguso, good to see you.
Hi, Vince. Here I am.
Yep. Thank you.
I'm here. Got my notes ready.
Hey, Pat, how many people are on the Melrose board?
6.
6 of you? Okay.
Yeah, there's me, Katina, Maura, Kathy Mirabile, Tim Looker, and Carlene Casson, and Ellen Sullivan. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh, it's 7.
Oh, thank you.
And the only officer is Maura. She's the treasurer, and we just function as peers.
Okay. So when you have your meeting, So who would your secretary? Is she involved in the board or is she separate?
Who's that?
I don't know. When you have your meeting, your neighborhood meeting,
Yeah,
do you have a secretary?
we take turns because
Oh,
no
gotcha.
one wants to do it.
Gotcha. I understand.
And we're not having, we had a management meeting the other night. We're probably not going to be having a separate meeting for quite a while because there's no separate Melrose issue. Everything is bigger.
Right. So while I have you on the line, down the road, sometime in February, what do you think about the mayoral meeting that we can bring in, obviously Kathy Sheen now, and some of the other mayoral candidates?
There's four people running so far.
Right.
And
So-
Ginny told me that I don't know the deadline. I would rather wait till everybody's,
Oh, I agree. Oh, definitely.
and I don't know the deadline. Zach, do you know
When petitions are due, right?
when our petitions due? I don't know that. Ginny was gonna
Probably
look it up.
end of March.
End of March.
No, petitions start like the third week of February, right? How many weeks does that go?
Ginny was gonna look it up, but I'm not sure what it is.
This is a little on the early side, but I thought since I had you on the Zoom meeting, I'd reach out to you, get your feel on it.
Yeah, well, I think it would be good to either do it with you or with Uptown Cooperative or just with, I don't know.
Go ahead, Pat.
No, I don't know what the most efficient way is when you have a lot. I mean, four is not too many.
I would be happy to do it with Uptown, the bigger the crowd. Go ahead, Zach.
So I actually have been communicating directly with the League of Women Voters, specifically Margie Skinner, who is the former chair of Cana, and she's a very active League of Women Voters representative, and Patricia, I think Sebelius, the president of the League of Women Voters of Albany County, and Cana is going to be doing forums with mayor, common council, like the works.
Cana is, okay.
Yep.
So I don't know if we need to duplicate that. That's sort of a philosophical question.
Right. Well, we can all jump on Zach's, really.
Right.
Get the
It'll be a good turnout, I think, for the League of Women Voters forums.
I agree, Zach.
Last year we did the assembly and I think the DA with the League of Women Voters.
So they would come to a Cana meeting, Zach?
So we would do a special series of evenings of forums where we would focus on the mayor, the different common council. It might be like a series of forums.
At Cana with legal, okay. So I will let the rest of the Melrose Managing Board know that and see what they think. When are you starting that? Do you know?
I'm just waiting. Right now, I gave my list of candidates that I'm fully aware of to the league, and I'm just waiting to hear back from them at this point.
Okay.
But I presume it'll be after petitions are due.
Okay. Oh, Jenny, we were just talking about all the races. Do you know in your head when the petitions are due for mayor?
Well, they're all due at the same time. I know that I know that petitioning starts on the 23rd. As we can talk about other things, and I'll look it up quickly because I've been meaning to do that.
So people can announce, but they still have to get petitions signed?
Correct. So Pat, you could say right now, I'm going to run for mayor. You can make a huge announcement.
Yeah.
You can make a video. You can make a TikTok. You can tweet it out. And if you don't collect any signatures, you're not running for mayor.
And how can people get signatures in COVID?
So hopefully that is a big question. The last election cycle, the governor did put out an executive order that impacted exactly what you had, the number of petitions that had to be filled. I am assuming he's going to do that same thing now, but he has not yet done that.
And what does that mean? People wouldn't come to our houses?
Well, we'll still have to come to some people's houses because you still are going to need signatures to get on the ballot.
Wow.
But it does make it very complicated because my own personal stance on petitioning, and I'm very passionate about getting people on the ballot, and I gather signatures in every single election, school board, whatever, I'm getting signatures. And I only do things that I would want somebody to come to my house for. So I'm very particular about how late you go out. I mean, some people will go out as long as it's late. I'm like, I don't want somebody coming to my house at 9 o'clock at night. So I follow my own rules. And right now I'm not comfortable having somebody just arrive at my doorstep. So it is going to be a very different process. My plan is to do a lot of outreach and talk to people and say, you know, can I get your signature in some way, and try to do it that way. But it's definitely going to be very complicated, and it's going to be difficult to be able to do. So we'll have to see how it goes. I am hopeful that the governor will put out an executive order. But the other side of that is we can't totally get rid of. There's a reason why we get signatures. You have to have support of people that are to get on the ballot.
Right.
And there's not a really great way to do that.
Right. Okay, thanks.
It's 7:02. We'll wait a few more minutes and then we'll start the meeting.
Just a reminder, if you're not speaking, please stay muted so we don't get feedback.
So just to note, the petitions are due. First day of petitioning is the 23rd for the primary, and you can file them between March 29th and April 1st. So basically the end of February towards the end of March is when we're going to be gathering signatures.
Let's start the meeting. I want to thank Zach Simpson for hosting this Zoom meeting. Every time Zach hosts a meeting for me, it goes flawlessly. It's unbelievable what he does for me. And I do want to tell you that Zach is the chairman of CANA, which stands for the Council of Neighborhood Associations, which Eagle Hill is a member of. I'd like to thank Melrose and the board, and to Pat Doyle, who will MC the 13th Ward candidate for Common Council, who is Ginny Farrell. And Zach will take care of the 14th Ward, and I will take care of the 15th Ward. So with further ado, Pat Doyle, you're on.
Do you want to say anything first, Zach?
Well, I just wanted to just take a brief second to thank the Melrose neighborhood members, the Eagle Hill. I'm always happy to see a collaboration between more than one neighborhood. It's something I've been doing for the last few years since, I went to my first neighborhood association meeting about 4 years ago. And, and here I am at Cana, so it's pretty exciting. So I think it's great to have everybody with us tonight and to really appreciate democracy in action. And it's really important to have these events because you want to be in front of the public and answer questions. So I'm happy to be with you.
Great. Are you recording now? Are you recording? So if people don't want to be seen on the recording, please take your picture away. So I'm Pat. Did somebody say something? And please mute yourself if you're not speaking. So I'm Pat Doyle. I'm one of the several managing board members of the Melrose Neighborhood Association. And we've been working cooperatively with Vince and Zach on different meetings, including having joint meetings and being part of the Uptown Neighborhood Cooperative that Zach coordinates. And my role tonight is to introduce Ginny Farrell and try to moderate questions that come to her after her presentation. Ginny Farrell is the former president of the Albany School Board. She's been our 13th Ward representative on the Common Council since 2017. She is the majority leader, the chair of the Finance Committee, and member of two committees, Law, Buildings and Codes, and Human Rights, Human Resources. So Ginny will speak about what she's accomplished, what she hopes to do, and then we'll take questions, and this part will last 10 to 15 minutes at the most.
Good evening, everyone. I'd really like to thank Pat for introducing me, and of course everything she does for our neighborhood. And a huge thanks to Zach for not only hosting tonight, but also for stepping up and giving some new life to Cana. We were so lucky to have Howie with us for so many years. But it's, I think he's probably looking forward to a break too, but we really appreciate it because it's so important. And of course, thanks to Vince for his work on the 15th. So I'm obviously Ginny Farrell. I've been honored to serve as Common Council representative for the 13th Ward for the past 3 years. As Pat mentioned, I serve as the majority leader for the council. That's an internally elected council leadership position. In that position, I work a lot with the president pro tem, who's Kelly Kimbrough, and the Common Council president, Corey Ellis, and the mayor's office to kind of talk about different advocacy pieces for the council, and also to really try to bring council issues to a broader citywide perspective. I had mentioned this to Tom, I do kind of think of the council as a team, and we are all one part of the whole. So absolutely what happens in the 13th Ward matters, but what happens in every part of the city impacts us. So we really have to, that team mentality is very important to me. So I'm very honored to serve, to have been elected by my peers to serve in that leadership position. I also serve as chair of the Finance Committee. I've been doing that for the past year, and I serve on the Law, Buildings and Codes and the Human Rights, Human Resources Committee, as Pat mentioned. I did serve on the Planning Committee for the past 2 years, but once I stepped up to the chair of the Finance Committee, it's one of the bigger committees, the Planning Committee. So being chair of the Finance Committee and serving on the Planning Committee, it seemed like it was an opportunity to give some of my fellow council members a good spot on a committee, and I regularly go to the meetings because it is very important. I also served on the Albany Police Collaborative that just finished up its process. We're now in, that's the state mandated look at policing in our city. That's now moving to the council in the community input phase. So I mention that also to kind of put it on everyone's radar. It's really important to get everyone's input on that. So I look forward to working with everyone to kind of get more input from our community on that. I also, in my other life, I work for the Assembly as the legislative analyst for the Assembly Higher Education Committee. And then in the kind of nonprofit world, I volunteer as president of the board for the Albany Fund for Education. I have 3 children. My younger 2, I have a sophomore at Albany High, a senior at Albany High, and a sophomore at University of Buffalo School of Engineering. And I have a curly dog named Milo, who's super cute. There's a lot of functions for the council itself, especially in the leadership position and as chair of the finance committee. And they're very important. They take up a lot of time, and it's one of the honors to serve as that function of city government. But I think the real reason that people become interested in serving on the council is for the constituent work, those actual nuts and bolts things to make your community better. And they're often very minor things that are actually so important. And I mean, it's incredible the amount of work it takes to get a stop sign put in, things like that. But it's also some of the most rewarding work. And as I was thinking about this evening, I wrote down a bunch of different things. And so I've had stop signs put in, potholes filled, sidewalks filed down, trees taken down, trees planted, handicap spaces reserved. I've even negotiated disputes between neighbors, which that's not my favorite part of the job. I love when neighbors get along. I've pushed several stop work orders for illegal construction throughout the ward. I've been able to have some of that, like that work reversed. One of them was a building going illegally from a 2-family to a 7 different apartments in this place, and they did bring it back to the 2-family and did it authentically, which was a really big deal. It was a beautiful old home, and it's I've toured all of the vacant buildings in the ward several times. I've worked to get several buildings off the vacant building registry. I've added several buildings to the vacant building registry that they didn't know should be on there. And sometimes just doing that has been able to kind of get that work moving. I've worked with the water department in the school district to ease some of the drainage issues on North Main. With the construction of Albany High, there's been a lot of extra drainage work to address some of those concerns, and being kind of vigilant with that, and also with my ties with the school district, we've been able to facilitate a lot of those conversations, which are really important. Of course, there's the flood area study for the Melrose area, which we are in the process of. And I'm really hoping to get some concrete data for that so we can push for some good results for our neighbors through the Melrose area, because that's also a big issue. And I would say one of the things I'm most excited about is we've really been able to start the conversation for Brevitor. I think COVID has slowed it down more than I would like, but the planning department has it on their radar. It's part of the Walkable Streets initiative. We did have that demonstration over the summer, which of course, as any Melrose resident can tell you, didn't really make a lot of sense for Melrose, but in terms of the planning department understood that, but they also really wanted to let the neighbors know that they are aware that Brevitor has been overlooked for years. They're aware that Brevitor is an issue, and they do have it on their radar and want to move forward with it. So there's a lot of hopeful things with that, and I'm really looking forward to moving forward with that. Unfortunately, I know there's a few neighbors on here that are interested in that. I was really hoping personally that the Wadsworth Lab that was slated to be built on the state office campus, in that lower part, that I was kind of hoping that we could maybe get some funding for Brevitor in there to do something a little bit bigger. But I don't know if anybody has seen that that's not in this year's state budget, unfortunately. I'm kind of hoping that people will push that. Otherwise, it's crazy to me that that's not part of the governor's budget, as Wadsworth Lab was really on the forefront of the COVID virus and being able to do some of the first testing to identify if someone has COVID or not. And I know that the labs are not in great shape currently. So I don't know if anybody want to put a bug in anyone's ear. I highly recommend it, because I think just as a society, that's an important move forward. And I also think it could impact really positively forever and help us reimagine that in the way it should be reimagined, which is right now it's obviously imagined as like an expressway, which is not, that does not fit with the fabric of our neighborhood. I'm also hopeful the other big traffic issue is on North Main by the high school, and I'm hoping that there'll be something that comes from that. That's also been, I would say, not as joyful discussions, but I've had a lot of discussions with the school district and the city on that. So I will say I'm fortunate to do these things because we have a lot of incredible people in our ward that I'm able to work with, because one person can only be in so many places. So even though every time I take a walk, I always walk through the ward and walk my dog through the ward and all the different parts of it. In fact, some of my friends are annoyed with me. They're like, can we go somewhere else? I'm like, yeah, but why? We might catch something. We could see someone and say hi. And but I really appreciate every time someone reaches out to me with any issues that they see, because that allows me to be in more places at once to advocate for people effectively. So it's a position that I love and I'm honored to have. And while I've not yet officially announced, I do plan on running again, and I would love to answer any questions. And I just will note, I know that Tom is on here too I hope people don't mind if it's a citywide question, since I do feel like we're kind of on a team. I might pull Tom into some of those answers too.
Okay, that's great. So if anybody has questions, I think I can see the screen. So if you just like put your hand up like this, I'll call on you. And then if I don't call on you and your hands are up, then I'll look in the chat. So Scott and then Jack so far.
So I can go ahead?
Yeah.
So I'm a resident of the 14th. I also want to point out, as I did early in the meeting, if I'm wearing a baseball cap, that means I am off the clock from my day job. So I'm asking as a citizen. I'm not asking as my other job. Jim, just curious, what do you think of Richard Connie's proposal to kind of get rid of partisan party voting? I think it's a fabulous idea. As someone who is only recently in the last 5 years registered as a Democrat, because you have to vote in the primaries in Albany to really select who's going to be running for office. And I'm a big fan of it. I was a big fan of it. I'm a big fan of Rich too. But, just curious, I'm probably going to ask every person here that question. Just curious of what your opinion is there.
So with anything before it goes to committee, I don't love fully weighing in on things, because I think the committee discussion, the committee process is really important. I understand why, and I also, Richard is one of the biggest treasures in the city of Albany. He has more in his brain than I feel like anybody could ever learn in their lifetime. He's truly incredible. And I think that there's some merits to it. I have had that experience. Obviously, when I was on the school board, that was a nonpartisan election. Also, while I have not had the honor of serving on the library board, I've been involved in a lot of library board elections. I think that there's some absolute merits to going nonpartisan. The other side of it is there's a reason why I'm a Democrat, and I am a Democrat because I align with a lot of the priorities of the Democratic Party. And I do think that is an important thing. And it also allows people, as a voter, it shows me that person, at least, well, there's a wide range of every elected position. I mean, I would say a conservative Democrat could probably be more conservative than a conservative New York Democrat could potentially be more conservative than a really liberal Texan Republican. So there's a lot of variations on political parties, of course. But within the Democratic Party, there are certain things that you sign up with. When you become a Democrat, you agree with certain things. And that matters to me. And that matters to me when I'm voting. I think losing that, having been involved in school board elections, which I don't have an issue with them being nonpartisan. I guess I see both sides to it. And I think that it does deserve further discussion. A big part of me would be really sad to not have it be a partisan election. Not because I don't value what every single resident in my ward does, because I don't care whether you can support anybody that, if you could run against me. I will talk you through the process of election. I'm passionate about people getting involved in the electoral process. It's not that so much because I do value getting more people involved. It's more of, I feel like we would be losing something as a city of Albany, where I like that we are primarily Democrat and thus it skew a lot more liberal. I think that what happens on a national scale informs what happens in our city. So we have some more conservative Democrat areas, but they are also, they know what's happening nationally. So if our party, when Bernie Sanders talks about something, that informs what happens in Albany because we are a democratic society. When AOC says something, that informs what we do because we are Democrats. She is part of our party. That pushes where we are as a community. And I don't know that I want to lose that. So I understand the merits behind it. And it might be something that during the discussion in the committee, I absolutely go in the direction of nonpartisan, but I think that we would be losing a lot if we did that as well. So like so many things, it's on a cut and dry.
Okay, thanks a lot. Jack, your turn.
Thank you, Pat. And all I want is to get contact information so I can contact you later. I don't want to tie up this whole meeting right now. So is there an email address I can contact you at later?
Absolutely. Yep. And just so everyone knows, I'll give you everything, but on the city website, there's my email address, my home address, and my cell phone, which I will give you right now too. So my cell phone is 518-944-0313. And I just because I work during the day, I do request for, if you're able to just shoot me a text and I can get back. If you're not, then just leave a message if I don't answer it and I will call you back. My email address is, I'll give you my personal and also the city one. The city email address is gfarrell@albanyny.gov. And my personal one is Ginny Farrell, GINNIFARRELL@gmail.com.
Thank you. Is that it? Is that it, Jack?
Yes, thank you very much.
Okay.
Also, Jack, I love your background. That's
part of my perverse sense of humor.
That's all right.
Everybody's on Zoom these days, and you see all these talking heads on Skype and like that, and they're always in their fancy houses with their fancy bookshelves, right? And they always have all these books. So I decided, by golly, I'm going to outdo it. So I have to,
you did outdo
it. That's nonpartisan statement about just everybody has these fancy.
You even outdid Scott, and he's, president of the library.
Actually, Trinity College in Dublin, Ireland, which is a beautiful city and a beautiful library. It's not my library. It's just tongue in cheek.
I have been there. It's a gorgeous library. It's in my top 5 libraries.
Wow.
Okay. Any other questions for Ginny? Please put your hand up by your head. Vince, you're
yes.
up.
I want to compliment Ginny on her answer for this voting that Scott brought up. As a Democrat, when I am a committee person, when I pick up that the petitions, I just want Democrats on them. I'm not going to carry for every nonpartisan out there. And I remember growing up down in the South End when I was 18 years old, and I went to my father, who owned a restaurant right opposite Lombardo's. And I said, Dad, I'm 18 years old. How do you want me to vote? He stopped in his tracks and he looked at me and he put his finger up and he says, you always vote for a Democrat because they're for the little people. And I never forgot that in all the years that I've been voting. And it's true. You don't know, as a committee person, the number of things that the Democratic Party has helped numerous people with when they got into trouble. So Ginny, thank you. Thank you, Pat.
Okay, great. So we just have a couple more minutes before I pass it off to Zach. Any other questions for Ginny? Please go like this. We got 2 pages of people now, so I got to make sure. I don't see any hands in the air, Ginny. Can you hang around for a while?
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you very much. So here goes Zach to introduce the next person.
Well, thank you very much, Pat. Appreciate that. So I was asked to introduce the 14th Ward candidates. As many people know, Joe Igo has decided not to run for re-election this year, and we thank him so much for his many years. How many years? Was it about 20?
24.
24. Wow. That's a long time. But before I introduce the 2 candidates, just want to mention the Uptown Neighborhood Cooperative is collaborating with the Helderberg Neighborhood Association and the Park South Neighborhood, February 17th, where we are doing a Meet the Candidates night for the 5 open positions for the 5 retiring council members. So there'll be another event to tune into. So Miss Evers, right? His husband is here tonight on her behalf to give a statement. Thank you very much for coming tonight. Go right ahead, Robert.
Okay, thank you. Can you hear me okay? Okay. You just have to bear with me. I'm out of my comfort zone. Celia signed up for this, not me, but I told her I would do this tonight for her. So she prepared a little bit of a statement, and I added my own to it as well. So I'll just go ahead. Hi, I'm Robert Evers. My wife Celia, who is running for the Common Council in the 14th Ward, is unable to be here tonight. As a public health nurse, she was called to administer COVID-19 shots tonight and is supervising her staff in administering vaccines downtown right now. Celia wanted me to mention a few things of some of the reasons why she is interested in serving our ward as its council person. First, our family has lived in Albany for 3 generations, and the Evers have lived here in the 14th Ward on Holmesdale for over 40 years. My father was a Democratic committee person here in the 90s, and Celia has also served as a committee woman for the 14th Ward now for the last several years. The Evers family has always been active in civic affairs, and Celia herself has been active as a volunteer in our community in a number of areas. First, she has been a public health nurse for 17 years, serving Albany's neighborhoods through the Albany County Department of Health. Also, she is an active member in CSEA, a past officer on the New Scotland Elementary PTA, has served as a judicial delegate for the 3rd District. She's active in the Buckingham Pond Neighborhood Association and its various events. We have 2 children who attended the Albany City Schools. She last year was a member of the welcoming committee of the 2020 New York State Association of Black and Puerto Rican for the Legislative Caucus. More importantly, Celia and I are committed to our neighborhood and our city. We know this area, a place I grew up in where I live in the same house that my parents did when they chose the 14th Ward to be their family home back in 1977. We are raising our family here and participate in neighborhood programs. I know Celia has pledged to the voters in the 14th Ward to be readily available to listen to your concerns, work as your voice in city government, and to help address all other concerns and needs. Sometimes the most important thing people need is to know that their council person is there to work for them and make sure that the quality of life and the basics are attended to by city government. This is where that is why Celia pledges, just like Joe Igo did before him and Harold Greenstein did before Joe, to always answer your calls, make sure your needs are met, and work to ensure the city and its services are available to you and your family. It's that simple. Celia will be the voice of the people, your representative. It's basically a neighborhood voice for you. That was her statement. She really apologizes that she couldn't be here for herself. And anybody who hasn't seen a picture of Celia, that's my wife. Just put a name with the face. She looks forward to the next one. I think, Zach, you're doing one next month, she told me.
That's right, Robert. And please convey our thanks for the service of helping vaccinate individuals. That's a very admirable thing. And my grandmother was a nurse, so
okay,
it's a wonderful thing.
I definitely will.
Thank you. Yeah, there's going to be the 17th, and then there's going to be probably Kana's going to do a forum with League of Women Voters, and probably a couple other groups.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Robert. Appreciate it. Okay, so we do have another individual running in for 14th Ward. Her name is Deborah Zamer. I've actually seen her recently a couple of meetings with Cana and Uptown Cooperative, and she's a new face to me, so I'll let her talk a little bit about herself and why she's running. So Deborah, go right ahead.
Hi, can you hear me okay? Yes, okay. Hi, I'm Deb Rosen Zamer. First, thank you, Zach, and all the council members that are here, Mr. Ragosu, Pat Doyle, the Eagle Hill Neighborhood Association, the Melrose Neighborhood Association. Thanks for bringing us all together tonight. I'm excited about the opportunity to be the representative for the 14th, some of which overlaps with the Eagle Hill Neighborhood Association. And I'm really looking forward to hearing from you and listening to you about what's important. A little bit about myself. I was born and raised in the city of Albany. I was born on Homestead Avenue between Lincoln and Washington, coincidentally, in the house that Zach lives in right now, which we didn't realize until we met on a Zoom call a while ago. And he's asking me a little bit about myself. And he says, "What number homestead did you grow up on?" And then he holds up the screen and says, "Does this place look familiar?" It was my childhood home, small city. When I was around 9 years old, my parents moved to Holmesdale in the 14th Ward, where they live today in the same house. My husband and I chose to live in the same neighborhood. We live on Lennox Avenue off of New Scotland. We also chose to send our kids to the public schools, which are the same schools that I went to in Albany. I went to School 16, Pine Hills Elementary, Hackett Middle School, where my son is a 7th grader right now, Albany High School, where my other son is a 9th grader. I went to undergrad at SUNY Binghamton. When I graduated, I joined the Peace Corps and I served in Benin, it's a country in Africa. I was an English teacher for 2.5 years there. It was really a life-changing experience. When I came back to Albany, I started working for now the late Father Peter Young. That work led me to pursue a master's in social work, which led to opportunities in policy and government. When I had my first child, I wanted to have a more flexible schedule, so I became a New York State licensed realtor and helped run our small family real estate business here in the city of Albany. I loved that work. I focused mostly on the city, highlighting the benefits of living here, always emphasizing the fact that my children were receiving an excellent education in Albany and that it was okay to send your kids there to our schools. At the same time, I was always active with several local nonprofits serving the community, most specifically Upper Hudson Planned Parenthood, where I was president of the board and on the board for years there. I was always been active in Jewish family services and in my synagogue congregation, Beth Emet. When my children were a little older, I decided to get back to my roots and began looking for opportunities in policy and government, and I ended up with a position in Governor Cuomo's office. I was assigned to be staff for the Lieutenant Governor Kathy Hochul, which was really an incredible learning and networking experience, and I continue to cultivate those relationships today. Throughout the pandemic, I've been volunteering every week, shopping and delivering groceries for the vulnerable populations around the city. I've also been working with several refugee families through RISE, the Refugee and Immigrant Support Services Center over on West Lawrence. So it really feels like for me the right time to get off the sidelines and channel my passion for the community and for the city towards being an effective advocate for the residents here. I'm building a strong campaign. I'm not focused on the backroom old Albany politics, but rather on connecting with every single resident in the district, something I'm working hard every day to do. So thank you so much for inviting me to introduce myself to you, and I really look forward to listening tonight to you and hearing what's important. Are you muted, Zach?
Of course. Sorry. Anybody have any questions for Ms. Zamer? The 14th, got Scott.
So I'm not going to ask the question I asked Jenny because she had a really good answer.
I might too.
And you know, my question is for both the candidates. We moved to this neighborhood about 6 years ago. We always lived downtown. And one of the reasons why we moved to this neighborhood was our concern about traffic. We had moved out of Albany, lived out in the middle of nowhere. That's all our kids knew until we moved back. As you hopefully know, traffic and particularly the way people drive, to be completely honest, is probably the largest, probably the biggest detriment to health of the community. There's an assumption that we're not a pedestrian community, although Saturdays, the reason why I love my neighborhood is because there's people walking everywhere, kids skateboarding up and down the street, riding their bikes up and down the street. Just the other day, I was walking my dog, and I know I've walked past both of you on the pond. So if you see a guy with a small black dog, that's me. We're always at the pond. But we're walking, and I noticed that someone had driven up the sidewalk and driven over a block to basically avoid traffic. That's what it looked like. What are your plans to do, not just about New Scotland, which is almost a 4-lane highway that's supposed to be 2, but also other roadways which are used as if they're a highway, and that we have a lot of commuters on, and that it's scary just for our kids to ride their bikes on the sidewalk. So just curious about that subject.
Absolutely. No, it's a serious issue, the traffic safety in this ward. I have to tell you, it's always been like this on New Scotland Avenue. It's been worse in the last 10 years than I ever remember. But one of the things, and you said like riding your bikes, I have 2 boys. They're 12 and 14 now, but I mean, I have seen them on their, I know where they are, on their bikes on Berkshire, and I've gone in my car to go get them because it's so dangerous to be riding your bike down Berkshire, especially if there's any amount of rain or anything. So that's one issue that I think we really need to discuss. And I'm trying to kind of dig into it and find out what kind of resistance there's been to a sidewalk on at least one side of Berkshire, to see what the issues have been. We have no bike lanes in our ward, like none. And people like you, and I was in real estate for years, so I know why people move here. And people like you move here for safe, walkable neighborhoods, so your kids can go out in the street, right? As far as speed is concerned, there are ways I think the city can address this. I know you said you didn't want to necessarily focus fully on New Scotland Avenue. and that's fine. But and I mean, New Scotland Avenue is a 1-lane road, even after South Manning. From South Manning to Crumbkill, it's 1 lane. So why aren't there lines painted? Why isn't that made clear? Why isn't that, isn't that clearly delineated? The rage people have from waiting for so long on New Scotland Avenue to, it takes them so long between Albany Med and St. Peter's. By the time they get past South Manning, they're just gunning it and trying to go around. So there are ways like painting lines. There also might be some room for a speed camera somewhere along New Scotland, to encourage people to slow down. But the walkability, sidewalks in our neighborhoods, there's so many streets without sidewalks. It's always been that way. I think sometimes things are away for so long that you don't even think about possibly changing it. So I hear you, Scott, and that's something that I definitely plan to focus on.
Can I add one thing too? I know that my wife has touched on it too, is is it Scott or Jack who asked that question?
It was Scott.
Scott. Hi, Scott. I'm Robbie Vercelia's husband. I know Celia's talked about it too, because we were just talking about this the other day. Buckingham Drive. I don't know what street you live on.
I'm on Cakeley. Okay. which has become a cut through when people are trying to avoid the light at St. Peter's now.
Okay. Yeah. No, I get it. You come around, pop up on New Scotland and take a right or whatever.
Yeah.
We were just talking about this issue this morning or the other day, because I used to be the paper boy on Holmesdale Avenue. And I used to actually start on Holmesdale by the pond and go all the way up to Buckingham when I'm 10, 11, 12 years old. And I said to my wife when we were walking the dog the other day, I was like, I couldn't imagine my 12-year-old crossing Buckingham Drive with this traffic. It's like they come around New Scotland onto Buckingham. But anyway, long story short, I know Joe Igo has looked into speed bumps on Buckingham Drive, and I'll have my wife talk to Joe about that. But there was a reason. I don't know if it was because of the plow trucks or something, but people need to slow down on Buckingham Drive, and I'm sure it's other hot points around the city as well. So I'm going to talk to her and tell her to that's something she's got to look into, and I know that's on her radar as it is. So thank you.
Great. Maybe let's got questions for Deborah.
Yes, Zach, it's Ray. Following up on what Scott just asked and the safety concerns, particularly along Berkshire Boulevard and Buckingham, are you, the candidates, both of them, aware of the shortage of manpower within the police department? There have been times when they have actually admitted they do not have cars to cover Upper New Scotland, Upper Washington, nor Upper Western Avenue. Do you see this as a problem, and what could you possibly be doing about it?
Oh yeah, the shortage of officers, the recruitment issue with the police department. Is that what you're talking about?
That's definitely what I'm talking about.
Yes, that's a huge issue. I've been tuning into as many meetings as I can on the subject to see what it is, how the city is trying to address this. I think it's a really difficult environment for police officers. Obviously, I think Bob Evers is in law enforcement, but seems like a very difficult environment to recruit officers right now with the amount of scrutiny and stress that they're under. So that I know is an issue that the city has to deal with, and I'm trying to sort of figure out what initiatives are out there to help with that recruitment issue.
Thank you.
I think I could add a little bit to that too. And I think some of your question had to do with if certain neighborhoods were going without policing. Is that kind of some of your question?
That's definitely part of the question, yes.
Okay. I personally have, as a deputy sheriff in the city of Albany, or with the county of Albany, have worked side by side with Albany Police out of, their center station on Madison Ave and the South Station down on downtown. And as far as I know, they will never run short. They will run, some tired officers, but they always have a minimum staffing, and no neighborhood goes without staffing. I'm pretty confident that that's not the case, that neighborhoods go without policing.
I've actually had the chief admit that it has happened.
Okay.
And, I've sat here, I can remember back when there was, considerably more officers available. There was an event going on near me where people parked blocking intersections. They left their cars in intersections to go to this event. The trash trucks couldn't get through. The DGS driver honked his horn for an hour and 15 minutes before a cop got here.
So let me change what I'm trying to say. The same amount of cops, they might be diverted to other neighborhoods, but and do other neighborhoods get more attention? Absolutely.
Yes.
And yes, but yeah. So I guess that's something to look into is putting more cops on the road. But as far as the Albany Police, they're zoned to certain zones. The police cars are put in different zones, and each zone encompasses each neighborhood of the city, and every car has a zone, and they're just sometimes diverted to, unfortunately, they go where a lot of the crime is.
Right. Well, I'm thinking that, more police presence on Berkshire and Buckingham would ease that problem on those streets a lot less expensively than putting in sidewalks for multi-millions of dollars.
Mm-hmm.
And Zach, can I just add one thing?
Go ahead, Pat.
There were several meetings held over at St. Peter's, and there's an Albany area hospital area traffic study, and there were reports done on that, and some of us went to those meetings. And my understanding is that Bill Trudeau, the director of traffic engineering, is going to use that information to get money to try to make improvements recommended by the residents who live in all of our wards that are upset about New Scotland and Manning and no lines on the road, which is something we also face on Brevettor. So if you want to go to hospital area traffic study, there's a lot of documents there.
Yeah, that's a really good study that I've looked at. I think it sort of had to be paused because of COVID, unfortunately, but they got really great input, and there are some very creative ideas, I think, in that study that will definitely be useful. Like we'll be working with them moving forward. If I'm the representative here, I certainly will use that as a resource.
Okay, go. Vince has a question. Go ahead,
Yes,
Vince.
hi, Zach. This is mostly for Deb and this Evers. Are you candidates aware of the number of hours that you're going to put in to this council job? And it is a job.
Yes.
This is a job. I've been attending those meetings since 2000. So you can see I'm as old as Joe Igo is. So when it comes to it, I can't talk highly enough about the Common Council representatives. They are awesome. So if you feel that you can put in your due diligence for that job, so be it. And the other thing I want to bring up, and you brought up that Deb was, or it might have been Evers, about the sidewalks. The 15th Ward has no sidewalks. No, not one. We have one little one by the school, Eagle Point, and it goes from Western down to Cortland. So I'm going to stop there because I think Tom Hoey is going to tell you some of the things that we have done, and I'd let him do it. He'd probably say it better than me. But thank you for bringing up the sidewalks. As far as that, I don't even have bicycle paths. So,
Yeah.
So again, I'll let Tom Hoey. So thank you.
If I may, Mr. Agosti, thank you for bringing that up. I've been watching for months now, and before that, but it's actually a lot easier to participate in Common Council, to watch Common Council meetings since COVID, because you can watch them every night. And it's amazing to see, like, Ginny Farrell, Tom Hoey. I've written him messages while he's, in his meeting, and Councilmember Hoey is in the car coming from here, from there. He's always at the meetings, every committee meeting. It is humbling to see how many hours are put into it. And it's really inspired and motivated me that much more, because it is such an active board, such an active, group of people really committed to public service, committed to the city of Albany. And I know I'd fit right in.
Let me just add one thing for Celia. It'll be quick. Celia kind of told me her getting involved at this is my payback, because I was the past union president for the past 5 years, and there's been talk about time constraints, and she's rearing and ready to go, because she looks at it as it's her time to get me back at all the time I spent in the driveway before I come in from work on a phone call for an hour. So she anticipates a lot of the work, and she's ready for it.
Robert, thank you. Anybody else have questions for the candidates? Well, I just want to point out that I think it was September of 2017 was my very first council meeting that I attended. And there was this gentleman by the name of Vince Ragosu that went up, and I think you were talking about bond ordinances, Vince. You were pretty heated about him. But he walked up with a paper, like rolled up like he was going to swat somebody. And I said, I got to meet that guy. And soon thereafter, we met each other. So Vince, your turn. And thank you, Deb, and thank you, Robert. Thank you very much. So we're on to the 15th Ward.
Thank you, everyone. My job tonight is to introduce Tom Hoey, the 15th Ward council person. And, he's on so many committees that it's just unbelievable. So I'm going to let Tom Hoey tell you the committees he's on, the accomplishments that he has accomplished for the 15th Ward, that he does in the background, and that the people in the 15th Ward really, truthfully, has got a gem as a council representative. Tom Hoey, would you please come in?
Sure. Thank you, Vince. I appreciate the kind words, and Zach and everybody who's attending. I'm using my iPad. I'm sitting in the car, so I'm not in a fancy house. I'm waiting for my son. He's playing soccer. He's 13 years old. Now, he's born and bred in Albany. Unfortunately, I'm not. My parents met in England during World War II. My mom worked in a bomb factory, and my father mixed cement making runways in England to fight in the war effort. They met in England, moved to the United States, moved to Queens, where I was born in Forest Hills. I moved up here in 1989 with my wife, my late wife. And shortly after we moved up here, we found out she was 28 years old. She had breast cancer, and she passed away 12 years later. For a few years, I was, kind of trying to get my act back together. It was a tragedy that I dealt with for many years. So I met my current wife, Leah, at the university, and that's where I, and I got involved in politics. So basically, I'm a network and design engineer at the University of Albany. I've been there 32 years. I involved in all the big buildings. The E-Tech building was my latest. I did all the design work for the conduits that allow the internet to pass through. We have these big metal pipes that we run fiber optic and copper cables through that provide communications. On top of that, 5 years ago, I was elected. I'm the membership development officer of my union, United University Professions. We represent the faculty at all the SUNY schools. So in my role, I drive across the state to Buffalo, to Potsdam, Canton, Stony Brook on Long Island, Downstate Medical in Brooklyn. So we have 32 campuses that I'm in charge of the membership with. And, we had a court case, Janus, a few years ago, and it's made it a lot tougher on public service unions. So my union involvement really got me involved in politics. And I found myself going down to the Common Council testifying almost weekly, well, every bi-weekly, to bring up stuff that affected union members. And I made the decision after I tried to talk Vince into running, and Vince said, "No, Tom, I can't do it at this point." So I decided to run. It was a tough race. It was a strong primary, and I got elected. And right after being elected, not taking office, we got hit with a thing called 1211 Western Avenue. It's a small site. It's less than an acre, and there's a developer wants to put in apartments. Close to 300 people are going to be living there. Parking spots for 150. You've talked about the traffic problems. This is going to bring even more traffic problems. Looking into it, we've really got the neighborhoods mobilized. We started a group, Stop the Stories. A lot of people thought we were, they didn't know what we were about. And, you can look at it, Stop the Stories building 7-story buildings in a residential neighborhood, or Stop the Stories telling us this is going to be good. I am very concerned about the rate of development. There's going to be no empty land left for my son, 13, when he finally grows up. Every available space is being developed. And the argument is, well, people don't want to own houses. They want to own apartments so they can move around. And, the history of Albany was it was always discouraged to have apartments. The idea was to have private ownership because people became part of the city. And I still believe that. I mean, there is places for multiple story buildings. I believe in condos. I want to see our citizens and residents own where they live. And I think that's an important aspect to give people the opportunity. The American dream is to own your own property. It's an investment. And then when you get older, you can sell it and so forth. So that was my first big task. One of the things that I've done since day one is I would meet with Vince, Frank Camisso Sr., who's our ward leader, and also the county legislator, and Paul Miller, who's the assistant ward leader. I meet with them every Saturday morning. Even during COVID, we wear our mask and we keep ourselves socially distant. But we go over the problems in the neighborhood, and we discuss what we're going to do. And I give back a feedback, what's happened at the council meeting. It's all about communications. And I try to make all the Eagle Hill neighborhood meetings. I think it's important to hear from our citizens, what they want and how we can best handle them, take care of problems as they occur. Some of the stuff, I'll just read off some of the stuff that I've done. I've helped get Chase Manhattan Bank in. Chase Manhattan on Homestead Avenue in Western was the old school. They tore it down and it sat there vacant for years. I got a call from both the diocese, Catholic Diocese of Albany, and the guy who was helping develop it, that they were having trouble with the BZA. Chase wanted 23 parking spots. And what happened was that the zoning board of appeals would only give them 8. Had to do a lot of pressuring, go in the mayor's office. We got them the 23 spots. And if you drive by there, it's something I'm very, very proud of. When you look at that building, you can't even notice that there's 23 spots. They've turned it into like a little park in the back. Really good job. So I'm very proud of that. Ted's Fish Fry opened up where Maggie's was. He ran into all sorts of problems. He brought in people who really weren't qualified, and Jack Flynn, councilman from the board, and myself worked with him, worked with codes, and we were able to get Ted's opened. I just feel so bad to open up a restaurant right in the middle of COVID. I'm hoping it'll succeed. They're really good people in Ted's, and they really did the building nice, and let's hopefully keep our fingers crossed on that. University Laundry, they want to expand. I worked with them and, to be able to get that. Somebody wasn't silenced there. So yeah, I worked with them and got their building approved through the planning board. So I'm not against development. I like to see stuff happen. I've gone to codes to prevent, as Ginny said, I get a lot of calls where people are trying to turn a 2-family or a 1-family into multiple family, and it's not zoned for that. And you feel bad and everything, but this is what the law is, and you really got to follow it. And we don't want to see neighborhoods destroyed. Some of the things I've done a lot of resolutions when I was on the council. I did a resolution supporting Kanemo at the Capitol Mission. They were going to deport him. Real nice guy. My stepson worked with him. My stepson does volunteer work in the Capitol Mission, and they were going to deport Kanemo. And fortunately, the sheriff stepped in, the county sheriff, and we were able to stop it. And just recently, the other day, they announced that he's a permanent resident. He was married to a citizen in Albany, and it was just this whole thing with the previous administration trying to make people's lives miserable. The latest resolution that I'm working on it's a good story. The Native Americans who lived in this area had made an agreement when they put in exit 3. It was over burial grounds of the Native Americans, and the state agreed to put up murals on the flyover bridge. And that was 3 years ago. And then all of a sudden they were silent and they didn't want to do it. So the council and myself, we put together a resolution. And I reached out to Pat Fahey to let her know that this was going. She said, hold off, let me see if I can do anything behind the scenes. So 2 days later, I get word that they are going to put up the murals. They'll probably be happening next week. So I changed the resolution to thanking Department of Transportation and our state representatives for making sure that happened. Some of the other work I've done is working on the ordinances for the USDO. The USDO is the guidebook for the city of Albany. It determines everything as far as regulations on putting up buildings, taking down buildings, etc. It's over 300 pages long. It was pushed through in 2017, and talking to the people who were already on the council, they explained to me they had 2 months to go over this document, and it was filled with a lot of mistakes. One of the mistakes, of course, I just mentioned was 1211. They have that area zoned as urban. And anybody who could tell me that over on Homestead Avenue in Western, that's an urban area. I grew up in New York City. That is not urban. So there are problems in the USDO, and I'm on a committee. I'm on the planning committee, and we are working to get that updated. And it's hard because the people who wrote it don't want to give up that power that they got bestowed. The USDO, it's an ordinance. Ordinances are done by the legislative body of the city. And what's happened is we have directors and stuff now making decisions affecting us that really should go through the council. So it's a kind of a power struggle. One of the things that we also did, and I voted, and it was very supportive, was to stop the blood plasma clinic from being put up on Colvin Avenue and Central Avenue. They wanted to put in, next to Hannaford, a blood plasma clinic, which really preys on the poor, gives them money for their blood plasma. And it really wasn't meant for there. We didn't have anything in the USDO describing it. We passed an ordinance, the mayor vetoed it, and it was the first override of a veto in history that we know of. It didn't happen again. It's never happened before. So it was kind of a pressure. It went to court, and we won on the first level of the court. Judge Lynch said that they were totally wrong, and we were right. One of the other ordinances that I did, and it kind of for a personal reason, Years ago, I had some hens, and I didn't realize they had passed the law banning hens. I think it was actually Ginny's predecessor, Dan Herring, because of a rooster, banned all farm animals in the city. And up by us in the 15th ward, I own 2 acres, and it's a big spread. And we grow stuff in the garden and stuff, and we had chickens, and they took my hens away, and the kids were heartbroken. I had 2 stepchildren at the time, and they were like pets almost. So one of the first things I started working on when I got in, we changed that. We now allow hens, not roosters, hens in the city, up to 6 hens. And it's been very good so far. We did a pilot program for 2 years, and it was going so well that we actually got it extended. It's now permanent part of the city, and we do collect fees on people wanting to have hens. And it turned out good during COVID because people worried about their food sources, and it's a good way to provide it. One of the other ordinances I worked on was the dangerous tree ordinance, where if a tree is known, the branches are falling off, and we had a problem with one of the neighbors in the 15th ward, and she fought for years trying to get a tree taken down. And she showed me pictures. It was like, they looked like spears in the backyard, and her grandchildren couldn't play in her yard because she was afraid a tree branch would come down. So we tightened up that law on the dead trees. That was something else that we had passed. The committees that I'm on are the Planning Committee, the Public Safety Committee, and the Operations Committee. But previous to being on planning, I was on the Sports Committee. I forgot the name of it, but it was with Parks and Recreation Committee. And one of the things that I very strongly, and partly because I knew of the situation, my son likes to play soccer. Albany is one of the few areas in the capital region that doesn't have decent fields. If you go down to Hoffman Fields, the soccer fields are on top of an old dump. There's bricks coming out of the ground. I had the Bethlehem team come and refused to play us. I was coaching at the time because they were afraid their kids getting hurt. And it was very embarrassing. So one of the things that we were able to do before I got off the committee was working with Beverwick. Parks and Rec got us to be able to use the Beverwick Park behind the downtown dorms for the Albany Soccer Club. I've been involved with Jenny. We did a nice walk last year of the golf course. The golf course is a gem in the city, and people don't realize how big it is, how many acres it is, and how much of it is not being used. I mean, it is there for golf, but there's walking trails. My kids go up there during the winter time and sleigh ride. It's a jewel, and we should be taking advantage of it. And we are looking into that. We're reimagining that. Okay, sidewalks. Mayor invited me when I got elected to come in. What do you want? Well, 1211 was my first thing, and she did support us a bit on it. But the second thing I said was, we need sidewalks up in the 15th ward. Sidewalks are very expensive. Okay, no doubt about it. So what I proposed was, let's concentrate on the main arteries. Russell Road is a main artery. It's a county road when you go right over the border into North Bethlehem, and then turns into a regular road. On the Bethlehem side, they have sidewalks that go all the way up to Crumpkill. Okay, so right at the city border, it ends. So, they had looked into it briefly. To do sidewalks on both sides is $2.5 million. But, talking to the people in the neighborhood and with our leadership, we'd like to at least get one side. And we did have Brad Glass come down and look at it, He walked from Eagle Point School all the way up to the North Bethlehem border, and he realizes he couldn't believe it. And we almost were hit a few times walking on that little, mile long road. It's dangerous. And a funny, story on that. When I was running and collecting signatures, 4 years ago with Frank Camiso Sr., we were just a block away and we heard a crash where a drunk driver in a pickup truck knocked out a telephone pole. We had just walked away from there a few minutes before. So we were really, really lucky that we weren't killed. But we definitely need sidewalks. Now, talking to Joe Igo, I guess at one time they did have money to do Berkshire Boulevard, and a few of the people complained and they used the money somewhere else. So there was an opportunity back then to get sidewalks there, but it's a boulevard. We need sidewalks there. We need sidewalks on Russell Road. If you want to walk your child to school, my son went to Eagle Point. I couldn't walk him to school. It's too dangerous, especially in the morning. People are rushing to work. And, veering off on that, we were, some of the other people I talked about, policing and stuff. We don't have a traffic division anymore. It was wiped out because of the shortage of policemen. We're down about 70 policemen right now. We've been complaining about it. I can't tell you how many times in the meetings, but don't forget, I'm one person out of 15, and it's building relationships like with Jenny, and she understands it and she gets it. And I'm able to text her and talk to her on the phone when I get really stressed out. And we realize what's going on there, but it's really hard. One of the, I want to say excuses is right now the police don't have a contract. And the reason they don't have a contract is they're having union problems where the regular policemen want to form their own union and break away from the PBA. And it's in court right now. It's been in court for almost 2 years. So these poor guys have been working, no raises. Can you imagine in this time, not, working your tail off, getting it yelled at because of a few bad policemen, and no raises and nothing in the near future, it looks like. And, the sergeants and lieutenants, there was an article in today's paper, and, the salaries there were, it was kind of, it was interesting to read, put it that way. But, we do have problems, but it's, when I go in and I'm dealing with the people in the lower wards, they feel that we're rich up here and that we're millionaires and that, we don't need anything. And when I bring up, with the gentleman from the second ward, he said, well, I heard the people in your area don't want sidewalks. Well, where'd you hear that? And, unfortunately, people have selective hearing, and that's the bottom line. I can keep going on and on and on, but I have the gift of gab. It's my mom's fault. She gave it to me. But, I love the job. I want to run again. I think I can do more. I am doing other things. I'm a pilot with the Civil Air Patrol. I do fly over the city, for missions for the Air Force. I can see us from above. I can see us from below. I'm a member of the Albany Labor Council, so union issues become my issues. And that's about it. So I'm open to questions. Thank you.
But let me just say that was a fabulous performance.
Okay, did everybody fall asleep?
I have a question.
Sure.
What's your view on Black Lives Matter and all the other candidates' view on Black Lives Matter?
Well, hello, sir. I see my friend Patrick. Black Lives Matter is important. And it's through your friendship, Pat. And Pat's a friend of mine, just to let you know. I work with him at the university. A lot of times, I grew up a white guy. And, I went to school I went to City College in Washington Heights, which right on the outskirts of Harlem. It's, part of Harlem, Amsterdam Avenue and stuff. And I had Black friends when I was in school and stuff, but I never understood, the problems that they go through. And, talking to Pat and others, where if you're driving in a car and you get pulled over, you got to know what to do so you don't get shot. I mean, this is the type of stuff that, we got to get beyond. Okay. And it's hard. It's hard to give up old beliefs in the way that, we were raised. So I think it's a good movement. I think we need to communicate more. And I was just at a violence task force meeting a few minutes before this meeting, listening in, and we got to do something. But I think the country has changed. Before that, I think there's people in office that made it okay to be racist. And I don't think there's any place in our society or world for racism. The joke I like to tell people, both my parents are from Ireland, And they used to get into terrible fights when I was a child about who came from the better part of Ireland. So I think it's human nature that you try to, you build your ego by saying, well, my spot's better than yours, or, my race is better than yours. We got to get beyond that. We got to work as people together and realize that we're all human. We're all part of this society. And the only way to make it better is by talking to each other, understanding, and working together.
Should I answer that too?
Yes, please.
I think Black Lives Matter is an essential movement. It's sad that we have to have it, but we do. There's a lot in our society that needs to change. And I think every day we need to move forward and make the changes that are there. And so I'm grateful for it. I'm sad that it has to happen, but we've got to keep going with it.
I don't know where Zach went, but I.
I'm here, Vince.
Okay, Zach, thank you. I just want to add in first about Black Lives Matter. And it is upsetting. I really, truthfully, is upsetting to me, and I hope my family also. I can't express that people look and talk the way they do. To me, growing up in the South End, there was no color issue. We were all one. The color was just the skin, but behind the heart was the same as mine. So again, the only thing, and I say this, the only thing I can apologize for my brothers for being so stupid. So anyways, getting back to Tom Hoey, I hope the candidates heard everything he did in 3.5 years. I got exhausted just listening to him. So again, he did talk about sidewalks. I just want to add just a little bit to it. Again, we don't have any bike lanes. And I remember when Leah Goby first brought up streets, a true street and a shared street. And she explained it at the Common Council. And she told me, I said, well, our streets are small. Well, what are you going to do for us? She says, every street that's paved will get a bike path. Either won't get the sidewalks, but you'll get the lane. That only happened on one street. I haven't seen a bicycle path in moons out here. So hopefully, along with the sidewalks, and hopefully Tommy does get us the sidewalks, and I hope that we do get bike lanes, because we have multi bicycle people now since we had the COVID. And since COVID, we talk about how devastating with everybody with this pandemic. We walk around with masks. In the 15th ward, I have never seen more people walk than I see it now. I now know who my neighbors are on the street, which I wouldn't have known if they didn't come out for a walk. And again, Tom Hoey has just been an asset to the 15th ward. And everything he said, when he talked about Ted's, when he talked about the Chase Manhattan Bank, when he talked about 1211 Western Avenue, please, I want people to know that what he said tonight was only a smidgen of what we had to do to get it in there. And so with that being said, thank you, Tom.
Zach, can I say something?
Go ahead, Pat.
I just got an email before from one of the police officers. They had to leave, but he wanted to relate that there were 54 traffic tickets written this month in our area, and also a large amount of vehicle larcenies occurring this month, mostly due to unlocked cars. Please be diligent and secure your vehicles. And he put their phone number on the chat. And if anybody wants to follow up with him about either of those or something else, feel free to email him. Thank you.
Can I ask something?
Go ahead, Roberta.
I don't see a hand up thing, so I unmuted myself, but I was just wondering in terms of the street and the lack of sidewalks, for me particularly along Berkshire, but I walk up and down Russell Road and all over the place. Wondering if there's if it makes sense at all to have, I don't know, something that doesn't make it as enjoyable for people that would normally be going up and down Western Avenue, like more stop signs, or I don't know. Is there any kind of, anything that can be done to the roads? I know there was one stop sign added and I had understood there couldn't be more, but people really speed. And I think a lot of it, I hate to say this, but I think a good amount of it is SUNY students that don't know the area and they don't want to go up and down Western Avenue, and so they just come onto Berkshire and they fly. When I've tried to cross at times, I've nearly been killed a couple of times, and I'm pretty spry. When I try to move, I'm not going slowly. But I've had people yell out of their cars passing me by saying, "Get off the road, this street is for cars." And I know sidewalks have come up, and then we'd have them and we might not, and they're expensive. But I'm just wondering if there's any other options that can be done to the streets to slow it down so it doesn't feel as much like a speedway, compared to Western Avenue, where you have lights and you have to slow down and there's more traffic. I don't know. Throwing it out there.
Well, what are the thoughts about speed cameras? I mean, that's one proposal that I saw in the St. Peter's study, that after some time, people know that they're there, they might get a ticket. Speed bumps also is something that I know that has been explored, but that's tough with snowplows.
Yeah.
So speed cameras actually would have to be a New York State legislative action.
It's
so
a state
we
law,
are
but
not able to do that, and it's a difficult thing to move forward. So I think certainly as a city we would consider that. As chair of the finance committee, I say yes to just about any revenue coming in. But
so Ginny, what would I do realize it's a state. But what
they're not allowed anywhere in New York State that is not. So there's a pilot project that was done in New York City for school speed zones, and that I know that Pat has. I don't know if she has. She might have a bill on it, but there's been discussions to potentially look into that specifically, but there's not really anywhere in New York State that has speed cameras just around. I think that would be a broader statewide discussion. So it's not to say I certainly advocate for, I'm not somebody that says, well, it can't be done. I never say that, because that's the first way you stop progress. So it's certainly a worthwhile conversation, but it's also not something that could be used in the short term to solve that problem. And Roberta, you are hitting on some of the hardest things to deal with as for everybody, for the police, for council members. I know Tom deals with it regularly. And there's not really, because what you're trying to do is actually change people's behavior. And you can't jump in someone's head and magically change that. So stop signs are certainly one way. Sometimes redesigning the road. I actually used to live off of Berkshire on Orlando, and one of the reasons why we moved is because it was like death defying to walk with my children on Berkshire Boulevard. Berkshire is, so Breviter clearly feels like an expressway. Berkshire does not have that same feel, but people just love to speed on it anyway. So I know it's a bigger issue. Sidewalks are something that, and Tom is like super passionate, which is one of my favorite things about him. I love working with him so much. I can tell you he is very, very passionate about sidewalks in the 15th Ward. And that some of the SMI for the parts in the 13th that are missing, we have a few streets where we don't have sidewalks, and it impacts people, but they are very costly, which is one of the one of the big blocks to them. The other piece that a lot of people don't know about is in order to get sidewalks put in, you actually have to have all of the neighbors along that road where you're putting in the sidewalks agree to them. So that's another big barrier, because you could have, let's say you have 10 houses and there's one person that doesn't want the sidewalks. That's an overall issue. But I will say I personally am open to anything. I'm happy to put in more stop signs if that works.
What about blinking lights or something? I mean, I've been walking, I live on Beacon, and I've been walking down Berkshire, and there have been those funny, not motorcycles, not scooter things, you know, like four-wheel things, and they race up and down. I've seen them race onto people's lawns because they can't fit along the street. And even when a car is coming at them, they don't move. They wait, the car stops and they just keep racing. I've called the police about it when I've seen it, because I know where the house is where they keep the bikes, and I've been laughed at. You know, when I said they're doing wheelies, and the guy laughed at me and said, wheelies, ha ha ha. And they don't send people out even. And I mean, there's a lot of older people. I'm older, but I'm, like I said, I'm spry, but there are a lot of older people that can't get out of the way of that, you know, that
those are
going to happen at some point, because it seems to be getting worse. And I've been there 35 years. So, you know,
I'll say that's something with the dirt bikes or whatever, that, you know, I live around the pond too, and it's frightening. It's scary.
I mean,
but I hope that
abreast of the street, and they don't stop when a car comes or when somebody needs to cross.
Right.
You know,
right. And we just hope that it's not, the solution isn't a reaction to a tragedy where there's it's clearly dangerous along Berkshire. Something clearly needs to be done. So, you know, hopefully the city we can figure out something to do before something happens.
Yeah, and I don't want to prolong this, but I guess in terms of changing behavior, that was kind of my original point, was that people once they find out about it, they use Berkshire to avoid going to Western. You know, they go through the stop sign at the park all the time. You know, they go right through that, and anybody could be crossing from the park with kids or whatever, because there are a lot of kids that are over there. But I mean, they go right down, and it's just a way to avoid the lights and the traffic on Western Avenue. So changing behavior, in my mind, to make them slow down with more, I don't know, I'm not traffic, obviously, but stop signs, blinking lights, whatever, you know, some police presence there. And I know they used to do that. They don't have enough now, but, you know, occasionally doing it and giving tickets when they, you know, anyway, that's it. I just wanted to bring it up.
You know, something.
Roberta, wait, I want to jump in real fast. Roberta, we did pass an ordinance in the city about dirt bikes and, you know, the ATVs, and they will be confiscated. So this is the first I'm hearing of it. And you just touch base with me or Vince. If you know who's doing it, we'll go after them. The other thing I just want to say is we need, and I brought this up with the chief, and Ginny will tell you, we need to have a traffic division come out and set up radar and just start giving out tickets. One of the stories we heard, well, it's mostly the residents who live there will get the tickets. Well, then they need to change their behavior, because we're putting people at risk. So that's going to be, you know, they're talking about, we do have an academy class that's going to be graduating soon. And then there's going to be another one where they've actually built a bigger facility to get more policemen. We don't have enough now, but we will go there. We're not just sitting back saying, okay, we're short. So
No, I will, because I called the police and I said, this is happening, and they laughed at me. So then I called back because I was talking to someone else, and they said they need to know the address. What are they going to do by the time they get there? They'll be gone. And I said, okay. And I watched these 3 bikes pull into a house on Berkshire that we all kind of know is a house, you know, bad things happen in, you know, and they all pulled into that house, and they were all laughing about the race, and they were getting ready to do it again. And I called the police back and I said, it's at this address. If you go now, that you will find the people that are doing it. And
it's unacceptable.
They never went there. So
it was unacceptable for the way you were treated by the police. I need to know that. I'm on the public safety committee. I can take care of that. All you got to do is let me know. I had no idea that went on. Thank you.
Scott and Jenny. Scott.
Just a couple of things. One, Tom, I'd love to talk to you when I am on the clock, since I know you have some network engineering and there's some professional things I'm interested in. So I'm going to reach out to you. It's the first time seeing you really speak, and I'm impressed with some of the things you said. Deborah, I think the red light cameras, and I'm going to get snowballs thrown at me by my neighbors. I'm a big fan of the red light cameras. I moved here just as they were being put in. And Lindsay and I were like blown away by how bad the blowing through red lights had gotten in the city. And I'm a bike rider. I've seen a remarkable improvement. So if we can use technology for some of this traffic enforcement, that generates money for the city. So that should make Ginny happy. And it also alleviates, I love the idea of a traffic enforcement. But at the same time, if you look at some cities that are really progressively looking at police, do we really want our police doing traffic enforcement? And some of the most dangerous interactions people from marginalized communities and from Black and Brown communities have is during traffic stops. So do we really want police doing that work? From what I've been reading, I'm a little bit of a civics nerd. I think there's a discussion to be had there. And again, I just want to bring up another project that I thought was great, which was the Madison Avenue Road Diet. Again, big bike rider. When I visited Albany in the 90s, I did not understand a 4-lane highway next to a park. I was skating where the skate park is now and fell in love with Albany, but I was like, there's some real weird traffic stuff going on. I would love to see something like that. And I know that's been discussed in the St. Peter study, but something like that on that final stretch of New Scotland. And I'm not just saying between Manning and Stewart's. I'm talking about, I love walking my dog from Cakeley to the golf course, but crossing the street is like, you got to do it at one of the cross lights. So it would be nice to kind of see a road diet for that highway into Slingerlands. So just kind of wanted to touch on a bunch of things you guys all talked about.
Ginny?
I was just going to add on to what Tom was saying, although now that Scott has added in, it could be ethically a broader conversation. But as part of the police budget this year, they are committing to having more traffic stops. So there is that piece that's supposed to be happening too. We'll see if it actually happens. I know that police they have to catch one of the big issues with the road bikes is they have to actually catch it like in place because they are not, they don't allow the police officers to chase them. And that's a public safety issue. When you start doing chase through the streets of the city, it becomes very dangerous. So it's the dirt bikes are it's a huge topic of discussion, and it's a huge issue because it's impacting the entire city. Every single part of the city has these dirt bikes going through them, and it's dangerous.
Yeah, well, I understand that, and but as I said, I personally called the police back with the address where the people were with their bikes. And
that's not okay.
I got laughed at.
Tom's right. That's completely
Are they still
unacceptable.
there? And I said, yes, they're still there. And they were doing wheelies. And I could hear him talking to somebody next to him. She said they're doing wheelies. And then they laughed at me. So I didn't expect anything to happen. But I gave them an address, and I'm sure it still happens from there when there's not snow,
All right, Vince?
I have a question basically it's for everyone. Ginny, you talked about sidewalks, and you said that everyone has to agree to the sidewalks. Well, there's no way, first and foremost, we have no sidewalks at all. And I don't know of any ward that was asked to take a petition for any sidewalks that they had. Number two, you look on Russell Road from Western all the way down to the city line, and we would put the sidewalks on as you're walking towards Bethlehem on the left-hand side, because that is the least amount of impact that it would have on the road. And there's no way, we had done this before, long before Mayor Sheen got involved, when Jerry Jennings was involved. And no way that I can give 100%. And I told her that just recently at a meeting that the 15th Ward was at with the mayor, that there's no way that I can get 100% of people to agree to sidewalks on Russell Road because they don't want to shovel the sidewalks. It's not because of safety or anything. We want the sidewalks for safety. And the other thing I want to say is that when you look for no sidewalks on Buckingham Pond, you are eliminating the 15th Ward to use one of the jewels in the city of Albany. So that's not acceptable for the 15th Ward.
I agree.
The other thing I want to bring up is that we talk about signs. Everybody wants a sign. I talked to the mayor just recently. We need signs. We got streets that the paint is off. And she said to me that obviously and unfortunately the sign man passed away. And I said to her, "Oh, that's all right, but when are we going to get somebody else?" And I didn't get an answer. So let's talk about the problem that Roberta had on the house on Berkshire Boulevard that we talk about these, she said four-wheelers. I'm going to add to it, four-wheelers and motorbikes and motorcycles. All summer they fix them. And
Yep.
Have I addressed this issue? Yes. And where did it go? It went no place. So again, I am aware of it, Roberta. But again, we had Jimmy Brooks was very involved, and it never went any place other than talking to him. So again, that's three issues that we have to rectify in the 15th Ward. But as far as sidewalks and Roberta's right, your Berkshire Boulevard is it's a raceway. You take your life on your hands. So try to walk that with two kids. And I'm going to tell you, if you
did it with three, and it was I would walk just in people's yards. I literally would walk in people's yards. I didn't have a regular stroller. I had a jogging stroller because I couldn't go on the road.
Right.
As a Berkshire.
If you live beyond Cottage and Russell, you can't walk. Your child cannot walk to Eagle Point unless they went way out of their way. There is no straight route from Cottage and Russell to Eagle Point. So again, I got another gem of a school, and I can't sell Eagle Point for the simple reason is no sidewalks. I can't say, bring your kid up here. I got an A-class school, but unfortunately you have to drive them to school every morning because you cannot walk it. Thank you.
Isn't that the area where they would put the sidewalk in front of somebody's house? Isn't that city easement property?
It
I
is.
mean, how do people
yes.
get to say, no, you can't put a sidewalk on city property just because what? I have to shovel it? I'm willing to shovel the sidewalk if they put it there.
No, so that's, this is more of a piece of that is an anecdotal piece from way back in the day. Dan Herring had the opportunity to get a sidewalk on one of the streets and wasn't able to do it because, and this was a lot more of the neighbors, they did not want the sidewalks in. So there has to be some sort of agreement from the neighbors. I don't actually know the process. I cannot wait to find out the process because I want to put sidewalks in, and I will, if it comes down to like baking cookies or like, writing love letters, whatever they want that can have it happen. I would love to see it happen. And I'm down for that wherever. So, I'm happy to go into the 15th Ward with baking cookies and the writing love letters to help Tom out to get it in there too. But it's, I agree. I think that hopefully that won't hold it up, but it's important to learn from the past, not to necessarily let it inform the future, but that is, could be a potential barrier that we as people who clearly care about our neighborhood might have to work to overcome.
Thank you.
Zach, I just have one thing to say for the Eagle Hill neighborhood members. If you'd stay on after this meeting here, I have to read you the treasury report, if you don't mind, Zach.
Sure.
Thank you.
Sure. And I just wanted to add that I believe February 11th, at 7 o'clock. The Buckingham Lake Neighborhood Association is going to be meeting after not meeting for a couple of years, I think, right? Couple of years. So Kana is
Yeah, it's been a
helping.
couple of years.
Couple of years, Kana's helping get Buckingham Lake back up and running. So we're really excited about the 11th. So it's gonna be a good thing. I think that's about it. So, all right, anything else, Vince? Or we're good? We're good. All right. Well, thank you to the candidates, and thank you, Robert, for standing in. But
Thanks,
thanks,
everybody.
thank you very much.
Yeah,
Thank
Zach,
you so
thank you.
much,
Appreciate
everyone.
it.
Thank you very
all.
much.
Good night.
Great night.
To the Eagle Hill Neighborhood Association, I just have to read you the treasurer's report to tell you where we stand. For our starting balance, we had $1,081, and our expenses was $225. We Lori Lyman, our webmaster, for Christmas, we gave her $50, Christmas and Thanksgiving, $50. To the New Covenant Presbyterian Church, we gave them $150. We wrote a check to Canaan to become a member, and that was $25. So our ending balance is $856.42. And to the Eagle Hill members, thank you very much. I appreciate each and every one of you. I appreciate you. Take care. Have a good day, everyone. Thank you. Zach, good night.
Great night, everybody.
Night, night.
Thank you. See you soon.